Good morning. Today I am going to talk about a few environmental facts related to ecosystem and its human impact. Why do we as a humankind search in another planet for our survival? Most of us know this particular graph. The land and water, these are all the natural resources. It's been completely utilized and also by the humankind in our past. The ecological footprint, what does it mean? The usage of land and water and its produce due to the human activities throughout the world, it's eventually lead beyond the Earth's ecological capacity. Yes, whatever the natural resources exist on this Earth's surface, which is not, it meets the demand of the growing human population on this Earth. Parallelly, there is the great difference between the developed and the developing countries' activities with respect to their population and their industrial revolution. When you look at this graph, before going to this graph, probably I will like to show what actually the ecological footprint. Whatever the natural resources exist on this earth, probably you can classify it into two. One is land, another one is water. How this has been completely exploited by this humankind with the background of the growing population, highest demographic rate, that leads to the searching of the another planet because they have over exceeded the natural resources what is actually exist on this earth. This is how the ecological footprint graph shows. Developed countries like United States and European Union put together 44% the ecological footprint have been utilized by them. Next, China and India, where you can see China leads to 18%. India, though we are in the population at second rank, I would say, but we have only 7% the ecological footprint. When you look at the per capita ecological footprint, what does it mean per head, being one human being, how the ecological footprint been calculated? Which is with respect to the one human being, the usage of the land as well as the water or any other natural resources present on this earth surface utilized by a single human being. When it compares across the human, across any person, the United States still it stands at 9.7%. The next is European Union, even China 1.6%, which ranks first in the human population. But comparatively, India is lower. But when you look at Japan, it's a very small country, but the per capita ecological footprint is still higher, which is 4.8%. When you look at this graph, the projected footprint, it's been predicted to next, I would say 50 years. That's the reason there are the several space research been carried out to see the another planet for our humankind, because we are completely exhausted with whatever the natural resources available on this earth surface. The next is, what are the three ways in which your lifestyle contributes to the environmental causes? Did you know what are all the causes? Due to the population growth, unsustainable resource use that leads to poverty, excluding the environmental cost from the market prices, we utilize, we exploit at the maximum from whatever the natural resources, the non-renewable energy which is present, which has been given to us on this earth surface, only for the market purpose, we exploit them. And also we have the very poor management of whatever is existing on this earth surface. So all this population growth, unsustainability that leads to poverty, and also it's not the practiced market values, and also the poor management of the environment. This leads to the very major environmental causes on this earth surface. Which two of these effects do you think are the most harmful results of our poverty, and why? Probably this could be the very good graph for the debate. There is this graph shows with respect to the number of people against the demography on this earth surface. Major, you can put the both developed and developing country in your mind picture, and you can correlate this graph with respect to that. Adequate sanitation facility, which is not available for 2.6 billion people on this earth, nearly 38%. Enough fuel for eating and cooking, it's not available for 2 billion people. Electricity, there is no proper electricity being given to 2 billion people. There is no proper drinking water, nearly for 1.1 billion. There is no adequate health care, adequate housing, malnutrition. It's nearly 0.86 billion people. Most of the African and Asian countries they're there under developing category have most of this lack of access to these facilities. That leads to the number of people which stands in the particular graph. Probably you can say point out three different categories. Probably I would say the malnutrition. Due to the poverty, that leads to the malnutrition. Due to the demography, there is no the sustainable use. Due to the developing scenario of any country that's not meet the economic growth and economic value, eventually are failed to provide the sanitation facility and electricity as well as the fuel. All they are interlinked, that actually eventually causes the environmental effect. Which environmental cause in India is very harmful even till today, but relatively in over a decade, this particular scenario has been reduced. But still, this causes the domestic demand with respect to the fuel, with respect to the cooking or any other property. With respect to the fuel, people are depending on the firewood, depending on even there are in the rural villages, people depending on the cow dung fuels that eventually causes the respiratory diseases, tuberculosis, asthma. These are the numbers which is increased in India due to the unavailability of the fuel resource. How can we live more sustainably? This is the ecosystem which is being given to us. We have very good ecosystem where the very good diversity, both flora and fauna, that has been controlled. There is the ecological equilibrium has been maintained. There is a very good food chain has been maintained from the producer to the consumer, and the consumer to the decomposer, and again back to the producer, which has been controlled. The ecosystem is equilibrated, and the nutrient cycling was fantastic, but still where we fail in maintaining the sustainability. It's a question. If this particular energy flow has been maintained, we receive the energy from solar, there is the diversity has been maintained on our ecosystem, and also it's been controlled by each and every species. They've got the population limitation, and also it's been limited by one another, and also the scavenging event contributes the nutrients in decomposer level. Then again it will be given a very good substrate for the producers to flourish. This is how the sustainability has been maintained in the ecology, but the human interventions and population, I would say, it's drastically have very great impact on this ecosystem equilibrium. Which three of these shifts do you think are most important? Most important why? The current emphasis on this environmental impact and how one can go for the sustainability emphasis of this. Pollution cleanup, it could be prevented. Waste disposal, whether it can be prevented. Protecting the any biological species, to do that, protecting their habitat. Environmental degradation through the environmental restoration activity. Increasing the resource use to diminish that, to reduce that, less resource waste. Population growth, make it to the population stabilization, depleting and degrading natural capital, doing the protecting the natural capital. What would you think among this would be the all these are interlinked? Probably we should not go and disturb the ecological equilibrium on any ecosystem. So to do that, we should not intervene. So to protect them, protecting their habitat. Environmental restoration is very, very important. Already, whatever the natural resources exist on this earth, we should not disturb, we should not degrade any fact, deforestation or fragmentation of the any forest patches, mining. Try to avoid and restore them probably, and also parallelly, it's an increasing fact. We have more than in India itself 130 billion people global. The population is increasing like anything. So make the stabilization on our population growth, not with respect to any other species, with respect to the human, the population should be stabilized. How does the biomes have been classified? This is one of the very important environmental fact, how the biomes are classified. Probably I have given one example from the Pacific Ocean of America, the western side, and to the Atlantic Ocean. Probably it's a kind of cross section where you could see how one can classify the biomes. The biomes are naturally occurring a community of flora and fauna occupying a major habitat. I would say there is a niche which has been determined by the precipitation, rainfall, and its temperature. So the precipitation and the temperature which shapes the biomes, which makes that particular earth surface which is well good for certain group of species to grow, live. But even the physical factors such as temperature and precipitation shapes these ecosystems. When you come from west to east of this particular cross section of the United States, you would see greatly, you could see that coastal mountain ranges and coastal chaparral and scrub, Sierra Nevada of the mountainous range, then coniferous forests where you will find the redwood forest, Great American Desert and the desert, Rocky Mountains where you will find the coniferous forest, the Great Plains, the Denver Basin and all other areas where you will find the prairie grasslands, just the periphery of the Mississippi River Valley. And the eastern, we know that Appalachian Mountains. In geography, we have discussed about this. Sierra Nevada, it's a Colombian supercontinent part. The Appalachian Mountain, it's just a breakage remnant of the Pangea supercontinent. This is how not only the physical factors, the geography as well as the physical factors synchronized and favored the certain biological diversity to survive in that region, to name them as a unique biomes. The biomes are classified based on the occurrence of the flora and fauna community with respect to the physiological factors. What is the role of greenhouse gases in global warming? Global warming, we know very well known scenario, but I just would like to show just in a nutshell that what's actually happening. Naturally, we receive the solar radiation on our Earth's surface. We have a very good layer, which is atmospheric layer, which allows not all the solar radiation, the ozone layer, which filters the UV, and the rest of the solar rays been absorbed by the Earth, where that's the reason we could have the biosphere name, because we have the flora and fauna which has been existed only because of receiving the solar radiation and also other possible physiological characters which exist on the Earth's surface. So the atmosphere also plays a major role at the ozone layer, lower stratosphere layer, which reflects some of the rays back to sky. But what happens there? It's very important, the greenhouse gas effect. Water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, all these actually the greenhouse gases, when it is there in a certain percentage, but due to the pollution, due to the emission of all these carbon based pollutants, the thickening of this atmospheric layer, which causes there is a radiated heat that's supposed to go back to sky, but due to the thickening of this atmospheric layer, what happens? Due to the greenhouse gases effect, due to the thickening of this particular sheet, some of the rays reflected back to sky. That's supposed to be reflected and also transmitted through the ozone layer back to sky. But due to the thickening of this layer, they are reflected back to sky. Due to this reflection, the average Earth surface temperature, it increases. So due to the increase of this temperature, the globe gets warmed, and the glacier melting, all other sea level rise are the causes which we could see the name of global warming. What are the major components of an ecosystem? This is just a picture. We know very well that we get light, water from the sky, where the producers do the photosynthesis, the backbone of the respiration, oxygen it's been released, and the carbon dioxide is assimilated. The producer, the plants, will make the food for us. The primary producers been taken care of, the primary consumer, and we have the secondary consumer, the herbivore and carnivore. When the carnivore died, the decomposers makes the rest of the step, decompose it and split all the cellular molecules into nutrients. The nutrients will be uptaken by the producers. This is how the cycle. So this is the major component. This is just the representation. We can't say that only rabbit and fox are exist on this ecosystem. This is just a representation. This is how all the ecosystem has been maintained. So to put it in a cyclic manner, this is how the producer, consumer, and decomposers of such as bacteria and fungi spills into the abiotic chemicals. The chemicals will be given. There each and every step there will be energy is released. Although the released energy will be consumed. So this is how the earth has been maintained. Which scientific principle of sustainability is related to the range of tolerance concept? When you look at the marine ecosystem, so we know the different layers of the marine oceanic ecosystem, but even the temperature plays a major role here, because we know due to the global warming, there is a shift of the population in a ecosystem from one place to the another place because the temperature varies. So certain organisms really are very sensitive to the temperature. When you see the population size in y-axis, in x-axis is the temperature from low to high. Any organism can't, this particular fish species can't survive in the high temperature as well as in the low temperature. They have been in the optimal temperature, average temperature, where the population has been flourished. So if there are any changes in the temperature at this particular level, so definitely this particular organism, the population will shift from this particular habitat to the another habitat. This is how the global warming, the impact plays a major role not only in the oceanic ecosystem and also in the terrestrial ecosystem. Which are they provide nutritious ecosystem? I think probably I've discussed in the couple of slides back, but very precisely, the decomposers are the very rich diversity in an ecosystem and have come from the various kingdom, from arthropods, bacteria, as well as fungi. But they play a major role. Once the organism ends the cycle, it's supposed to be decomposed. So, like the insects, longhorn beetles, bark beetle engraving, caterpillar, carpenter ant galleries, all these caterpillar ants, termites. These are the insect species which try to slowly, there are the sap collectors, and also they'll try to focus on whatever the remnant and secondary metabolites available in the food, they probably sequester them. They'll heat them, they'll convert them by the excreta, they'll just throw it to the environment. So if it has been thrown to the environment as excreta, it will be taken by the producers. Likewise, any carnivore as well as any producer easily can be degraded or decomposed by fungi as well as bacteria. So these are all the species plays a major role converting whatever the organisms, they end their cycle and splitting them into the cellular components or chemical components or abiotic components to the producer, the plants. The plants will uptake all the whatever the existing nutrients available on this ecosystem, so the producers will grow.